What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Work to Create podcast. I'm your host, Colton Bacher, and this is season 1, episode 7. Today's episode is all about one of the most common and controversial questions every creative will have to face at some point in their career. Should you work for free? I'm diving deep into how this shows up in the music industry specifically, but the takeaways apply to any filmmaker, photographer, or creative trying to make a living off their work. We'll be covering a number of situations that myself and other creatives have encountered and the different ways we can address them. For example, opportunities that look good on the surface but have a higher level of risk when working for free can actually lead to explosive career growth and making sure you never get taken advantage of. Plus, at the end, I introduce a filter for you to decide if a gig is worth it or not. Let's get into it.
I done came up, went through the ups and downs, but I stayed tough. Never took a shortcut and never gave up. This time around, I'ma stay up.
Wow. Okay. I just listened back to episode 6 and yikes. Not that it was like a bad episode, but I felt like I was saying like and the word like 1,000 times. So I apologize for that. But like I said in the very beginning, we're here to get better at speaking off the cuff. This is raw and uncut. And just here to get better. Putting in those reps, baby. Come on. In other news, I have not been getting as slammed in Warzone. We've actually got our first few wins. I think we're at 4 wins this season now, so pretty stoked on that. Pretty stoked. We're gonna take a little break this week as we head to EDC in Vegas for a bunch of shoots. So stoked on that. I also have to admit that I've been stalling. I've been stalling on the Unreal Engine and Resolve color learning, like my self improvement tasks or goals or whatever you want to call it. Have not dove into those topics / softwares lately, so kind of feeling bummed about that. But I also wanted to just put this out there. I really want to make a digital product for you yourself. That doesn't make any sense. Let me restart. I really want to make a digital product that you yourself would be interested in using. Whether you're a videographer, filmmaker, photographer, or even an artist who makes their own content, I want to create something that would help you and simultaneously support the podcast and keep this thing going for you guys. So my question then is, do you want LUTs? Do you want editing presets, a mini course, paid tutorials? I'm taking any and all feedback in the next few weeks, and then we're going to build it together. So just wanted to put that out there. If that's something that interests you, please reach out or comment or whatever it is. It'd be super helpful in me, finding a starting place, a place to get something in your guys' hands and just, try and make an impact beyond these episodes. So let's get into this episode 7. This is a tough topic. It's I know there's a lot of divide, or there's a lot of opposing opinions in the industry, especially in the music industry, about whether or not you should work for free. Some people will die on the rock of you absolutely have to, it's the only way to get started, blah 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 blah. And then others are more opposed to it, similar to my opinion on it. Just specifically because you can't, everyone has their own journey, and it's difficult to just do things for free when you're struggling financially, right? But we're gonna dive into this really deep, starting right now. Okay, so when does working for free make sense, or can it even make sense? So not all free work is a scam, but it's important that we know how to leverage this one-off gig into future work. So the problem is most creatives get offered free work all the time, and they don't know how to tell if it's worth it. So here are some situations in which working for free would make sense. All right, so we got Free work can make sense for you when you're doing it on your own terms. So what this means is you're in a position to spend the time and energy to do whatever work it requires without putting yourself in a bad spot financially, physically, and mentally. Because, there is no work, paid or not, that is worth sacrificing your financial, physical, and mental health. Those are non-negotiables. So we have to make sure that when we take on this free work, it is not putting us in a bad situation. So here are some situations. We got spec projects with a clear strategy. Okay, so spec projects, if you're unfamiliar, are usually a project that a group of filmmakers will create, but purely out of like their own interests. Like there is no client, but they will treat it as if there is a client, and there's a clear strategy of execution and the way that they would create that piece. Usually this results in spending a lot of your own money. So it's the opposite of, getting paid, but it's not quite working for free, right? You're investing your time and money into a project that has like clear strategic goals. So that is one form of where you're not getting paid, but you're doing work that could ultimately make you more work and more money. Okay. And then we have passion projects with full creative control. We all love this one. We all love our passion projects. I think when we're starting out, pretty much every project we're doing is a passion project in one way or another. But this this is a perfect example of doing something that you've always wanted to do, creating a piece of work. You can definitely treat it, as a spec project and take it super serious, or you just kind of follow this creative urge and kind of see where it takes you, and then let that just be the project. I will say most of the times these passion projects are actually where we create some of our best work. So if you are going to put some time and energy into something that is free, a passion project is like a really good option. And obviously, I think we can all relate to just trying to do things on a budget. And passion projects are a great way to do that because we're just going to get scrappy. We're going to do whatever it takes to bring that project to life. All right, another scenario here is collaborations with independent artists. So there's two sides of the coin here. So usually independent artists don't really have the funding to pay full rates or any rates at all. And if they did have the money, they will prioritize producers and sound techs and a lot of the things that have to do with music production. They'll pay all those people way before they'll even consider paying a videographer, a photographer, or someone like that. So this is a situation where it makes sense to work for free because they're not going to have the budget. And then on top of it, you can put in reps for whether it's a music video, whether it's shooting an event, whether it's creating content for them. You're getting in reps, and hopefully you're testing to see like what things work, what things don't work. And then the important thing here is if it is going to work for both of you, it's really important that it's like a mutual thing. So it's a mutual, you'll hear me say it a lot. This episode is a mutual exchange of value. And what I mean by that is this artist that you decide to work for free must be as committed to creating good content as you are, or a good film, or good whatever you want to call it. Because if they are treating it as if, it's worth nothing to them, which in a way it kind of is, then that piece will not be as good as it could be. And it's my belief that when we are creating pieces for free, they have to, at some point or another, directly or indirectly, lead to future work, future paid work. Okay. So that's what we're looking for here, is an artist that cares just as much about creating that piece as you do. Because for you, that piece needs to make you future work. It needs to get you future work. Sorry. So that's just little something to think about there. Definitely a difficult situation it's not a difficult situation. It's hard to find people that are as passionate as you about specific things. So when you do find like a situation where it makes sense, by all means, dive headfirst into that for sure. Okay. And then another situation in which it makes sense is offering short-term unpaid work, knowing that if you're able to earn long-term trust with that client, then you're gonna get paid in the future. So, for example, like tour roles are like a really common example where a lot of times they'll have a videographer or photographer on for 1 or 2 shows just to test them out, see what the vibes are, see what they can come up with. Um, a lot of times those situations are quite literally a test to see, what you come up with, how fast you come up with it, if it aligns with their branding, and then on top of it, are you just like a good person, a person that vibes with their team, a person that is able to connect and get along with everyone. So it's a situation where you know that if you crush it during those, testing phases, that you will get paid to do that exact same thing in the future because you've proven yourself. But that needs to be a very clear conversation. It cannot be this like invisible objective that was never talked about, or whatever. It has to be a very clear conversation where it's like, hey, I'm going to do this amount of free work for you, and then if you like it, great, we'll keep doing it, but it has to be paid moving forward after that. So that's just the conversation. And yeah, see where it goes from there. A little bit of a side note here. You must be willing to put in equal or increased effort as you would on a paid gig. Okay? This means that you pretty much, I believe that you need to be working harder on a gig that is free than you would on a gig that is for a client and you're getting paid your regular rate. Because you're taking a risk. So this is like a really important thing to understand, just like because we're all operating creative businesses, is you are taking a risk every time that you choose to do something for free, because all your time and energy is worth something to your business. Without time and the energy and like your fully functioning creative brain to execute all of these projects, without that, your business fails. So when you're creating these free pieces of work, they have to be able to lead to future work, just like I said previously. That is the whole goal, is to leverage those pieces of work to get more work. And a lot of times, like that project, in order for you to get noticed and for it to really create an ROI, return on investment, is by knocking that thing out of the park. No questions asked. It's a banger. And that's how I approach it, at least. That's how I see it, for the reasons I just mentioned. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, it's as creatives, we don't often look at, something like that as a risk. And I just think that's a really important perspective, because can't be burnt out and creating our best work, can't be burnt out, not want to work at all, and then not make any money, and now we're in a starving artist cycle. Like, been there, done that, okay? And I know a lot of you relate, so trying to help you avoid that. Here's an interesting story, a story that you probably didn't expect, and it's I believe that I've not taken enough free work in my career. I wholeheartedly believe this. In the beginning, I did, a ton of passion projects, but early on, because I listened to so many podcasts, I often fought the idea of doing anything for free at all. So even early on, I would, get people to pay me 50, $100, $200, whatever it is. And I believe I missed a lot of opportunities as I was coming up because I insisted on being paid no matter what. So like I said, earlier in my career, I made hundreds of pieces of work purely out of passion for myself. So technically, this is a form of free work, and I'd argue this is by far the most underrated form of free work, because I believe that when you are given complete creative control, we usually make some of our best work. So a little bit repetitive from what I said above, but yeah, that's like something I think about is like, dang, if I had, just bit the bullet and done that free work, then I would just be in a better position, or my career would be, my career trajectory, geez, would have been different or whatever. But, you're constantly fighting your demons, specifically your financial demons, and like trying to just survive at that point, because I was freelance when I shouldn't have been freelance. I didn't have the clients to support myself and my lifestyle, um, and that was the struggle. So that's why I didn't. But I always think about, had I done more free work, where I would be right now. So okay, when does free work become a trap? Just because an artist has clout doesn't mean the opportunity is valuable to you. Creatives fall for exposure offers that go nowhere, and they usually confuse access with opportunity. So that's the problem that we're facing right here. And this is a perfect example. So I had a friend of mine. Her name is Sydney Golick. We've talked about her on the podcast before. She's amazing. She had a situation that demonstrates this point. So she was offered an opportunity to go on tour with Hozier. And she was obviously paid for this, but that's not the point of the story. The point is she believed that with this one gig, it would be the one that changed everything for her, the one that would, skyrocket her career and put her in a position to just, be able to get work with anyone, anywhere. But this was not the case, and I think this is the hard truth. 99% of the work you do will result in incremental change. This podcast is all about putting in the work, and growing your career over time in a way that's sustainable. So the reason I'm telling you guys this story is, the trap becomes, you're offered what you feel like is a once in a life opportunity, but it's just like disguised as that. Because the reality is, even if you do take the opportunity, the likeliness of it blowing up your career is really low. So I'm always trying to be like as realistic as possible. So throughout your career, there will be plenty of opportunities that have the potential to change everything for you, but that cannot let you sway. You can't let that sway your decision making, because if you're making decisions based on, trying to blow up, like it's the same thing as trying to go viral. If you do nothing but try to go viral, then once you do go viral, you're going to do like, it's a slippery slope. And I know that's not like the most clear example, because usually going viral is associated with like, that's a good thing. But I argue that sometimes going viral at the wrong time in your career, and maybe with the wrong piece of content, can actually be a negative thing. So for example, let's say you blow up because you're posting dog content. You're you got some sort of fun dog Instagram, and it blew up. But it blew up because it was like a dog washing video or something. And you hate washing dogs. Even though you love dogs, you just can't stand washing dogs. But that's the one that went viral. So now you feel like, because you've been trying to go viral for so long, that if you don't make more washing dog videos, this is a ridiculous example, then you'll just lose everything. You'll lose your, career and your account momentum and all those things. And another example would be like we see it all the time in the music industry. Like a young artist blows up really young, and then kind of without like a really stable foundation and like a clear understanding of who they are, what their brand is, where they want to go, all those things. If you don't have that, then then later in life, and even as we see them, a year or two after that blow up, they kind of start to decline, or we see like a publicly, we see them like crashing out or something. And so, yeah, I think like sometimes the incremental growth is better, like the small growth over time versus, one big like explosion of growth, because now you have a base, now you have stability, you have something that you can repeat over time. So like I said, we're focusing on being sustainable and not burning out. So yeah, that is where I want your head to be when we're thinking about, free work, because that, I feel like the shiny new thing, the shiny new offer from someone to do something for free, kind of negates and overlooks what we just talked about. All right, so what are some solutions, some red flags that we can watch for, okay, when we're being like when people are offering us free work? So we have exposure promises with no real distribution or impact. Big red flag here, especially if the artist doesn't even commit to posting what you make. So we talked about a mutual exchange of value. You're going to come in and take photos or make a video or whatever, and then like the artist just is like not interested in posting whatever you came to create. And this, like, if you're gonna promise exposure and then not post what what the person made, that's kind of messed up, no real distribution or impact. That's what we're talking about here, is like, how are they going to provide you value by getting your name out there, and like, I don't believe it's enough to take their word for it that they're talking about you behind closed doors, like to other potential clients. Like, that's just like, most of the time we don't have a relationship like that with our clients. So big red flag to me. Then we have gigs where there's a budget, but not for you. This is pure music industry fuckery, is what I have written down here. I've seen this so many times. Oh, it's so annoying, dude. Like, yeah, we're going to pay everyone around you, but not you. And I've been in rooms multiple times where I came to that realization. I was like, damn, I'm getting absolutely worked right now. So yeah, clear red flag when they're talking to you, blah, 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 blah. Maybe you do a little bit of your own research on social media or whatever it is, and you find out that a lot of the other people that are on that team or that are going to be a part of whatever project it is, and they're getting paid, but you're not. Yeah, do your research, know who you're working with. All right. Then we also have pay-to-play events where someone makes you pay for access and there's no concrete exchange of value. So that person is just taking, and there's no give. That is a massive red flag to me. Now, there is a situation in which you could flip that and make it work in your favor, but that requires, again, that's a higher risk decision to make, because now it takes upfront cash flow to even get in the door, which is ridiculous. Like, that's no thank you. All right, and then we have one-sided collaborations. So you do, like, this is an age-old story in YouTube, across all content creation, across music industry, any industry, honestly. You do all the work and then they get all the credit. Ouch. Yeah, no thank you. So what I would urge is, if someone is offering something like this where like they want to collaborate with you, but it really seems that they're doing nothing but like talking about themselves, and then maybe like just like all the things that you could do for them. That's great and that's wonderful. But again, I would urge you to do some research, see who was a part of previous projects, maybe reach out to them and see like, hey, what do you think about this person? I see that you've worked with them before. They cold outreach and I don't know them. So would really appreciate any insight you have. A lot of people will ignore you, but it's worth reaching out to as many people as possible to figure out if that is a safe play, because you don't want to be in a situation where someone blows up, talking about blowing up our careers. If someone blows up and your name isn't attached to it and you don't get any credit or any money, dang, yeah, ouch, okay? That is what we are trying to avoid here. All right, important note. When interacting with these people and so sorting through these offers, there's a level of psychology that's involved here. So it's important that you take the time to judge someone's character, decide for yourself if they are genuinely interested in helping you succeed. But that's also a two-way street. So they are trying to make sure that if they give you access, you won't take advantage of that access and be disrespectful when interacting with others, or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't even have to be that specifically. It can be anything negative that will come back on them as a result of you doing something dumb. So they're vetting you and you need to vet them. There is no situation in which they vet you and you don't vet them and that you're not flying blind. That's when you're just blatantly avoiding red flags, or failing to see them, and that's like a slippery slope that might have to take a loss on that one. But I urge you guys to just tread with caution and make informed decisions. All right, we got real world proof and some industry takes here. So this might surprise you, but some of the most successful music photographers actually started out by shooting for free. So the problem becomes the music industry creatives have always been conflicted about this topic. It's hard to know what actually worked for others. So I have like some data that might provide a little bit of insight here. Some examples. We got Bradley Quinn, who is a former photographer for Snow Patrol, which I believe is like a old rock band. This is way before my time. So if anything else, this just kind of like proves that throughout time, these tactics have been used and have been successful in helping other people start their careers. So for example, he started out by photographing the band for free and sending the shots to local press to gain exposure. And then later, I guess Bradley, while he admitted it helped early on, he has acknowledged that this approach is not sustainable long term. Completely agree. And I'm sure you guys understand why, based on all the things that we've talked about. Yes. So, and let's see here. We got Bruce W. Talman. Got his start by photographing photographing soul legends like Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder in the 1970s, working with Soul newspaper. So that early access positioned him in front of major record execs and led to long-term career growth. I do need to put in a note here, because these are a little bit, these are some OGs in the music industry. We need to understand that back then, giving your work to like a newspaper or local press companies, that used to work. That like a lot of photographers used to get the majority of their work from publications, but that is starting to shift away now. So now I would highly recommend, sending your photos to the artist directly, finding people on the artist team to send your videos or photos to, through email, through DMing on social media, all of those things. That's what I would recommend doing now if you are able to get access to artists like this at a show or something of that nature. Okay, and then here's some interesting data I found too. A 2023 UK musician census found that nearly half of working musicians earned £14,000 per year from music. So that's $17,500 USD. And so what this highlights is widespread, like industry, like across the industry, financial barriers. So we have equipment, transport, living costs, and then many creatives take on multiple jobs to sustain their work. This is a tough one. This is the tough reality of trying to make it in music. Is a lot of people have to straddle the fence, whether that's like trying to be 100% in music or, in a 9 to 5 job. It's really, really difficult to make a living. So if you are making a living, and I am fortunate enough to be one of those people, every day I'm super grateful, and I probably take it for granted. But if you do make it, like just make sure you understand how many odds are going against you to make it here. So I don't know. If nothing else, use this podcast to put yourself in a position to give yourself the best chances of making it your thing, your full-time thing. So, all right, we got a little bit of like solutions / takeaways here. We have just little things to keep in the back of your head as you're moving forward here. Free work can open doors, but only if there's a door worth opening. And I'm going to help you determine whether that door is worth opening or not here in the next section. But another little tidbit here is you need to be intentional and realistic about the return, your ROI. I got to hammer it home, guys. I know I mentioned it earlier, but if you're going to do free work, it's got to pay off in some way or another. You can't just post it and ghost it, like forget about it forever, like that post, that piece of media that you create, that piece needs to be some of your best work. That's my belief anyways. All right. The guiding filter. Should you say yes? Before you say yes to another free gig, let's run it through this filter. The problem is creatives usually don't have a framework to evaluate free offers. They say yes out of fear of guilt, or we become obsessed with the idea that this could change everything. So let's create some clarity around this process. All right. I'm introducing you guys to what is called the opportunity triangle. For free work to be worth your time and energy, it should check at least 2 out of 3 of these boxes. Okay? Here we go. Money. Am I getting paid? This episode is all about working for free, so we need to assume that it's no. Which means these next 2 must be absolute, no question about it, yeses. All right? So the next one is meaning. Is this aligned with my values, relationships, or passion? Simply put, will this bring you joy or fulfillment? So forget money, forget anything else. Does it matter to you? Will this make you happy? Will this fulfill your creative itch to create whatever this piece is? Okay. A perfect example is later this month. I am super stoked to go to a Almost AM concert. They're this really young band, really enjoy their music. Saw that they were coming to Chicago, hit them up, and I was like, hey, would love to shoot the show. Let's connect on email, and I would love to just like create something really fun with them for that show for free. And that's what we're gonna do. And so that's like an example where I just want to go and create something without any strings attached, really, just something to scratch that itch. Okay, next box is momentum. Will this directly lead to my next opportunity? I'm sensing a theme here, ladies and gents. A little bit of a theme. Do you believe that you can leverage this gig to build your portfolio and attract future clients? If you 100% believe that, then it's a full send, okay? There's no question about it at that point. So we have the opportunity triangle. We have money, meaning, and momentum. It's got to check 2 out of 3 boxes. And again, just for this episode example, money is clearly not being checked because we're working for free. All right. And then I got 3 bonus questions that you can ask yourself if you're feeling a little bit stuck. So we have, does this benefit me in a meaningful way? A little bit repetitive, but reframing the question to see if we get a different response, a different internal response. And then you've heard me say it all episode, is this a mutual exchange of value? Are you happy with what you're getting out of it? And is the client that's getting the free work done, are they happy? If you're both happy, I don't see any problem. Okay. And then this last one, this is a big one that we kind of haven't really covered yet. But this way of operating runs rampant in the music industry, and it's, am I choosing this or am I being manipulated into it? Okay. This is a tough one, okay? Because there's a lot of sneaky snakes out there, okay? And they're going to be trying to frame certain opportunities in a way that is appealing to you, but you got to lean back on your values, your relationships, your passion, your end goal. Is this going to get you closer to your end goal? Or are you just doing this because you think maybe it could be the next big thing, or like this could blow up your career or whatever. So just constantly be self-aware of the conversations and do your research, and you'll avoid this. Okay, hot take. We're on to the hot take. This is just my hot take on working for free. This is something we have not covered yet. So we're just going to dive in here, all right? If the potential client is fully capable of paying you and your skills are clearly at a level that will benefit the client in a meaningful way, then I believe you should be paid. No exceptions. Even if it's $50 and it's a trial run, I believe you must be compensated with money in your bank account. There's no other form of value exchange there. There could be more forms of value, but that's why you only ask her like $50. Because at least get them to pay for your gas or parking or wristbands or whatever it is. It's a two-way street. You're going out on a limb to create something for them. And if they're more than capable of paying you, and you know that for a fact, and make sure you know it for a fact, then ask to be paid. I believe this isn't a charity. You're both running businesses, and in this context, it's about respect and mutual exchange of value. If one of those things doesn't exist, then I'd recommend literally cutting them off. You don't need or want people in your circle. You don't need or want clients in your circle that believe that this type of behavior is acceptable. And please, for the love of God, don't use the classic, this is paying your dues bullshit that so many music industry creatives tell you. We are focused on creating a healthy and thriving culture inside of the music industry, and those actions absolutely do not align with that. I'm gonna leave it right there. That's my opinion on that specific situation. I see a lot of big companies approaching people and not offering any money at all, or even brand deals. I'll see brand deals being offered where it's like, here's a product, make a video for us. Okay. Just because you gave me the product, and I didn't ask for it, or we didn't come to an agreement about how this exchange of value would work, because unless you're sending me like $1,000 plus thing, then I don't see that. I don't believe that there's a clear uh, exchange of value, like an equal exchange of value in that situation. So just my take. Just my take. Take it or leave it. Let me know what you guys think about that situation. It's pretty interesting, in my opinion. But all right, listener Q&A. We got Tommy Films. He asks, "What's your editing workflow like?" Oh man, it's a loaded question, and there's a lot to it. But I'll kind of just like streamline it here in like some bullet points for you guys. All right, step 1, import the footage. Right. A lot of times I will import the footage and I will organize it by card, or maybe by, topic, or I'll even organize it by like resolution or frame rates. You really got to kind of just see what works best for you in that situation. But just making sure you know exactly what footage is where in your project. That is number one priority after importing everything. And then from there, I create string outs. So basically taking all of the footage and putting it all in one timeline. And then I have a bunch of what I call like select sequences that are pulled up as well. So I have like my timeline maybe at the bottom of the screen, and then I have all my other timelines above it. So it's kind of like a pancake editing setup. And what I'll go through is I'll just like go through and cut selects and then pull them up into each sequence that has a specific type of footage in it. So I create like sequences that all have specific selects that are organized by whatever. Like, so it could be, let's say you shoot from front of house at a festival, and then you shoot in the booth, and then you shoot I don't know, close-ups of fans. So there's 3 sequences right there. You have front of house shots. All your front of house shots are going to go in one sequence. You have your booth shots. All your shots behind the artist are going to go in one sequence. And then you have close-ups of fans all in one sequence. And it can get way more complex than that. I even have I used to sell this preset pack. I'm going to try and get it back online here. Speaking of digital products, which is great. That is basically a bunch of presets, but then you also get my project template, which includes a bunch of like select sequences that show like all the different things that I organize for specifically at like a festival or a show. So after selects are cut, then I go in and I am messing with audio. So it's specifically the song that I'm going to use for that edit, and then also any dialogue that I want to cut in, whether it's the artist saying something on stage or whatnot. Number one priority for me in an edit is that the audio flows naturally and smoothly and doesn't feel abrupt or jarring or anything like that. It needs to maintain the energy and create a smooth viewing experience. So that's what I tackle first. From there, it's building out my structure. Sometimes I will do a text edit. So like I'll literally type in text and be like, all right, this is what's happening in this section, in this section, in this section. I believe like structuring your edit in a specific way, however creative you want to get with it, is a really big help, honestly, because if you have an idea of what you want to do ahead of time, it just frees up your mind to make other creative decisions instead of constant, like every cut, you're like, well, what do I do next? Well, there's no question. I've already figured it out. And a side note too, I will say at festivals specifically, if I'm doing live editing, which is like putting out content in real time, I often won't even pull selects. I'll just scrub my main string out and look for the specific shots that are in my text edit. So for all my edits for that day, I'll have a text edit that shows what I would have during each part of each edit. And then I'm just looking for those shots specifically and not trying to look at everything in the timeline. Because also when you're shooting live, you're not really shooting that much footage. So it's pretty manageable to know like where certain shots are in the timeline. All right, we got our text edit down, and now we are laying footage down. We're making sure everything is smooth and clean. In my opinion, that's just my editing style. I try and match camera movements. I often will work from a wide to a medium to a close, or I'll start close and then go wide to reveal whatever that thing was. That's kind of outside the editing flow. That gets it more into editing theory. But yeah, then lay down that rough cut. From the rough cut, I go into VFX. After VFX, I go into color, and then after color, I finish sound. Because sound is all, like sound design. So obviously, we already have like the song and the dialogue, if there is any. But then once the picture is locked, that's when I add the sound effects and yeah, kind of bring the rest of it to life through sound. From there, world's your oyster. You could export it. You could, you could start tweaking more things and fine tuning things if needed. But a lot of times for me, that's the point at which I just export and then, on to client revisions. Rest in peace. Nah, but if we're doing it right, and if we're taking the correct amount of time for an edit, and we're doing text edits and like really being intentional about how the edit flows, you'll often eliminate a lot of notes. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that makes sense. Next week, we're diving into a topic that is all about building your career without debt. Finances are always a hot topic among creatives, and this is a lesson I had to learn the hard way. If you struggle right now with finances and getting your bills paid and debt and all that stuff, which I do right now, or if you're wanting to take the jump and go full time, this one will be a must listen for you guys. I want to help prevent a lot of the mistakes I made financially, and make sure that when you guys are building your career, that you don't get stuck between a rock and a hard place, and now you have no choice but to pass on the free gig and do something else for basically no money, and then you have to do a bunch of those, and it's a never-ending cycle, but we'll get into that more. And then I just want to remind you one more time, I want to make a digital product that you yourself would be interested in using. LUTs, presets, mini course, paid tutorials. I'm taking any and all feedback, and then we're going to build it together. Okay. So please, if this interests you, hit your boy up. This has been the Work to Create podcast. If you found what you heard today valuable, even just a little, please consider liking, subscribing, and following, commenting, and even leaving a review on your podcast app of choice. It helps this podcast to get discovered, and hopefully, as a result, we can help more people. Your support means the world. Work to create, work to inspire, and I'll see you next time.
I'm on a roll like a jalopy with the brakes cut. I done came up, back then I had to